Hello everybody,
Hi.
we're back.
Yeah, with another video.
With another controversy. No, I'm just kidding.
Basic. We're gonna talk about Lolita culture, but not just Lolita culture, but like sort of the unknown parts of Lolita culture that people don't really talk about, but you'd know if you were in the community. All the Lolita videos feel so recycled at this point, like they're the same things.
Yeah, we're just trying to spice it up.
Yeah.
Trying to put our 2 cents in it, whether a lot of people are probably gonna disagree or agree.
But,
it's just our thoughts. It's not to be taken that seriously.
But I guess that kind of goes into like the first topic we're talking about, because it's about how Lolita's obviously an alternative fashion, but at this point it's so cookie cutter that like people are afraid to even disagree with one another, so it's kind of just like a lot of the same, and so it doesn't really read as an alt fashion to a lot of people, myself included, myself included.
Yeah.
It's just kind of lost its alternative roots. And if you talk to a lot of old schoolers, they'll say the same thing. It used to be really about just dressing how you wanted and not caring how
like a normal alternative fashion.
And just not caring. Like, you don't expect a punk to be following like a little like handbook telling them how to dress up to be punk and to look punk and to be officially punk. But nowadays in Lolita, it's kind of just like a contest of who can OTT outdo each other, or it's kind of just okay, I need to follow these rules, and if I don't, I'm gonna be exiled from the community, which is really quite dumb for an alternative fashion, I think. And I think it really stunts the growth of the fashion, and I think that's why we've really not seen a lot of creativity in the past few years. Basically, since old school's died out, we had a little bit of it with the, OTT sweet boom in the 2010s, but what made that a whole boom was because that was experimental at the time, and it's not anymore. But people are just redoing the same stuff, and they're not really trying other things or mixing other things because they're scared to in the West. That's the weirdest thing about being in Lolita, is because you are in an alt fashion, but it is the most normie feeling alt fashion I have ever been in.
Yeah, like,
and I've worn vintage clothing for years.
It's like different from actual normie fashion because, obviously it looks completely different and it's alternative in that way. But in the actual like mindset and culture and the way you're supposed to be dressed and all this formulative thinking with it, and it's kind of like what we were talking about once before with how like back in the day with like 17 magazine or like any teen girl magazine, they'd be like, this is how you should wear, if you're wearing pink you should wear it like this, and if you're wearing this is the hottest trend, and it's kind of almost like that, which is like the opposite of what is alternative fashion.
Basically, it's like how in normie fashion, like 17, you'll pick it up and it'll be like, here's outfits that you can wear on a date, or how to get guys to like you. And everyone in all fashion is like, ew, gross, disgusting. But for some reason in Lolita fashion, it's just like, here's how to get the other Lolitas to like you and respect you and to think you're cool. Dress like this, and it's step by step, and like we think that's cool and it makes it alt somehow, but to me it's the same exact thing. And I get it comes because a lot of people in Lolita have only worn normie clothes before. They're not well versed in other alternative fashions, not that that's a problem at all, so they want a formula, because that's how a lot of people in normie fashion wear fashion. They look for a mannequin, they look for some Instagram influencer, and then they see how they dress and then they mimic it. But the whole point of any alternative fashion, and even just fashion in general, is finding your own self and how to personally express yourself, or that's what it means to me. And I would love to see a lot more personal expression in Lolita, instead of everyone just wearing honey cake with a red blouse and thinking it's fucking the newest, most creative thing they've ever seen. We get it. There's red in the print. You put a red blouse on. I want to see something crazy, yo. Like,
and it's one thing, to argue like, oh, there's a reason, to preserve it or to for newer people and stuff. But the reason why I think there's an issue with us with it is because it goes beyond that. It's not just something that's for newbies to have a guide to. It becomes to a point where people are in it for multiple years, or there's somebody who is new maybe, and they think that that's what the fashion is, and I have an issue with that because it's a fashion. It's not like a costume or something where like this is how you have to, and it's a different thing, talking about like cultural things with like eras and shit, but in terms of like this actual fashion, it's like, oh, this you can't wear a black Mary Jane with white tights or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
I mean, that is just a common thing that
Mhm.
was worn in old school. So I
Yeah.
mean, we're biased because old school, but
Yeah, but
that's
like
just how we
also
feel.
there's no like I don't know, the whole thing of people I see so many videos on Lolita like YouTube where they're like telling you the art of courting and they're making it into this formula thing like it's math. And I
Mhm.
guess to some people that's how they understand it, but I freaking hated math and I do not like it when I'm getting told what to wear in a way that is like formulaic because if I wanted to do that, then I'd just go and be a normie. You know what I'm saying? And like a lot of people be like, oh, well, maybe Lolita isn't the fashion for you. But when you really look at Lolita and you look at Lolita that is interesting and inspirational, it has a bit of experimentation in it, even if it's just a very basic chord, even if it's a basic sweet chord. There's something going on that draws your eye to it. And it's not the formula of coordination, it's because someone's expressing themselves in a way that really makes them confident. And that's really what goes on over all of the rules to me. And like, you know, you get a lot of the older Lolitas who are just like, oh, well, no one even follows the rules anyways. All crap. People don't even wear underskirts anymore. And it's like, well, no, I think in the West, people got way too obsessed with rules because there was just nothing that was like Lolita for them
Mhm.
to even play around with. So they just wanted to make sure people didn't show up to conventions wearing like straight up clothes from Walmart and
Mhm.
saying it was Lolita because they bought like, you know, a little like tutu in the Halloween section for children. Like, but at this point, there's so much knowledge out there that like you don't even see Idas doing that anymore.
Yeah.
But we're also going to talk about the whole concept of everyday Lolita versus con Lolitas because this is kind of all going into the same problem with the fashion. Once it became very cyclical and very established as a fashion, it became very over the top and it sort of became a contest of who could own the most brand and outshine each other. People like to deny that that's a thing, but it definitely was a thing and kind of is a thing. And it's gotten so out of control now that you will see people who come to literally the Facebook groups and are like, yeah, I left this fashion in like 2012 and like I used to wear OTTs then, and now seeing what's just regular is so much more over the top than what I wore then. Like what happened basically.
Mhm.
And it's just been getting more and more over the top. If you want to do OTT, like go for it, like
Yeah.
go ahead, that's fine. But like I don't know, you should never feel forced to wear your clothes in a way that is going to be, you know, just a hindrance to you just to appease other people.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big problem in the Lolita community because people will literally put themselves down and put their cords down, just assuming that the community is going to hate them for wearing something in a way that's not, you know, the way we normally see it anymore on like Instagram. And I don't know, that's just really sad. So it's not very experimental because you're just copying what everybody else is doing because you're scared if you don't, you'll somehow be less Lolita.
Yeah, and like it's damaging too because people will come into Lolita thinking that over the top is, it quite like over the top is more like decora and back, before in like old school and stuff, if you wore stuff that was like over the top like things, it was more considered decora Lolita and you'd be having a bunch of shit on your head and stuff. But now it's kind of like, oh, you need to have like all of these things on your head in order to be good, or like you need to have all these accessories, and that's like considered the
Yeah.
average coordinate. And even if you ask for if you just, or if you even don't ask for concrete, people will be like, oh, you should have like more accessories, you should have like,
Yeah, that's the biggest thing because when someone does post a simple chord that they're happy with, they just get bombarded with messages saying that they need a bigger petty, they need more accessories, they need more everything basically. And
yeah.
it's because those people, to them, the fashion is very OTT, which is fine, but you need to realize that that's not the only way to wear Lolita. There's no one way to wear Lolita.
Yeah, and big poof does not equal good poof.
It really doesn't, and that's what I feel like people really need to learn. Like, it almost started out as like a joke to see who could like outpoof each other, but like at this point, like I see people overstuffing their dresses to the point where it like completely loses its shape, and it's not
Yeah.
because their petticoat isn't the right shape, which is commonly what people complain complain about, and they're like, oh, you're just wearing the wrong shape petticoat.
It's because it's too
No,
big.
it's because, yeah,
or
it's
they're
way
wearing
too
too
big.
much under it. Like,
yeah, like, there comes a point where the dress is filled to the brim, and it's overstuffed, and if you add more to it, you're just gonna look like the Michelin Man.
Yeah, like,
and
if you're
not,
looking like a marshmallow, it's not good.
I mean, if you want to do that, that's fine.
Yeah,
but,
that's
like,
fine, do what you want,
I feel like a lot of people freak out about how their petticoats look under their dresses, and the problem is that they've just been told by all these other people that they need to just layer and layer and layer,
Mm-hmm.
and
the whole
dress
point
is, like,
of the petticoat
can't
is just
handle
so that your dress looks nice.
Yeah, it's
like,
just to make it full. So
that's
if your
the
dress
only
isn't looking
point.
good with the petticoat, then there's really
like,
no
you don't
point
need to wear, like,
yeah.
3 petticoats that are, like, like, classical puppet petticoats and be like, oh, like, this is the ultimate poof.
Mhm.
Because, you know, you don't, it's not needed at
Yeah.
that point, it just overpoofed.
Well, I've seen dresses that just look like way overpoofed, and to me, that's almost worse than it being underpoofed, because not only is it really annoying to be walking around all day in a gigantic, like, petticoat that you can barely fit through the doors, but also, and maybe I'm crazy, it always makes me worried that these people's dresses are gonna, like, rip, because there's so much fabric up in them, and I used to wear rockabilly dresses, and we'd wear crinolines under our shit, and, like, I'd always get scared at the same point, like, if you overfill it, at some point, it's like the dress it just can't handle anymore. So I hate seeing overstuffed dresses because they make me anxious. That's just a personal pet peeve. I see it a lot in Lolita because now it's kind of like, oh, Lolita is based on the shape. Like, so you need to have this outrageous shape in order for it to be, like, alternative. And again, there is a shape to Lolita fashion and there is a silhouette, but it's, like, more about, like, actual styling than it is about, like, you need this petticoat.
I would stress mainly about that. I think our last point is mainly that we just want to warn people of being all into the Taobao craze that there is now.
Oh my god, yeah, no. I mean, like, I have a few Taobao dresses, and they're not the worst. They're very far from the best. And I know that Taobao makes a wide range and variety of stuff, but I'm so sick of people telling people that that's the only way to get cheap clothes, because then what they do is they go to Devil's Inspired, they spend way more than they would for secondhand brand, and then Devil's Inspired ends up, like, not even shipping their order. I understand that they're, like, a reseller, so some stuff is pre-ordered, but then other stuff, these posts are up in the Facebook groups complaining about Devil's Inspired, and then some people are like, oh, well, you should just read instructions, but really what it comes down to is that if you really want to buy from Taobao, using a reseller is probably going to end up being a gigantic hassle.
It's a hassle, it costs a ton of money.
Yeah, there's a slight chance that it might go good, but it's most likely going to be a hassle, and you can look on the groups, and, like, even people who are like, yeah, I got my first thing from Devil's Inspired, but it, like, took this long, and I just decided to buy from Taobao directly after that.
Buy it secondhand, quite honestly. Like, it's, I mean, like, you can buy cheap shit on Taobao, but, like, if you're gonna be, like, talking about Devil's Inspired and looking for a different option, just look at Taobao sellers, or Taobao pieces that have already been bought and people are reselling them on, like, Lace Market, because you'll probably just get them cheaper than you would at Devil's Inspired.
I've been hearing nothing but bad things from Devil's Inspired. I got an order from them. I got a blouse and a little headpiece during their 11/11 sale, which everyone went nuts on, and basically, it came in, but I never got any confirmation that it was purchased, and I never got any shipping confirmation. It just showed up at my house.
Yeah,
which
and
was
me
lucky,
and her ordered it at the same time. I bought 3 headscarves, and she bought 1 and a blouse, and I bought 3, and mine has still, and we don't live far away. We live literally, like, 30 seconds away from each other, so it doesn't make sense, okay?
So a lot of people just end up canceling their orders anyways, and, like, I can only imagine that if you're brand new to the fashion, and dare say you're, like, 15 or something, and you're like how I was at 15, where you have to go hassle your parents to let you buy something online, and something like that happens, like, if I had to do that the way I was at 15, my parents would be like, oh no, you're never doing this again. So I would suggest, if you're in that situation, to check out different options, like the ones that we've said, because no matter what famous YouTubers like Laura may say, they are sponsored, and you're not going to have the exact same interaction as someone who's literally the sponsor for the item is going to get. So you got to really look at other people's reviews before you just believe what the whole mass says. And that's kind of the whole point of this video, is there's kind of like a sheep herd mentality in Lolita, and everyone repeats the same stuff over and over again. And I mean, it's just very draining, because sometimes, you know, that's not right. Or there's just people like us who have different opinions, and I feel like it's important to, like, have that sort of dialogue.
Yeah, and not be afraid to say it.
Yeah, like, I don't think we'd be afraid if anyone completely disagreed with us. So I think, yeah, just in general, the whole community needs a little more open-mindedness, especially since it is an alt fashion.
Yeah.
So hopefully 2021 will be a more open-minded year for Lolita.
Yeah.
But you can only hope.
Alright, well,
Yeah,
that's it.
bye.